Up ready to work.
Yeah, I was just thinking, and not to interrupt you, Harris, but I was just thinking the same thing, that there's got to be a level of comfort for these folks, that we're not dealing with a politician. We're dealing with somebody who really feels what's going on here, and he's coming here to assess. Now, there are going to be those already, the naysayers. I saw a WAPO article about, is this going to affect Trump's vote in the state of Texas?
Oh
I don't think there's anything on his mind about this. I really believe that he's genuinely there to take care of the citizens of Texas. And I find it comforting knowing that he's there and Hillary's not, because it would be a complete dog and pony show.
He's saluting his military personnel, those people who have been on the inside, if you will, here, as many military members have been called up, not just National Guard members, but others have come in. We saw a Black Hawk helicopter.
There's
today
Governor Abbott
the rescue. Governor Greg Abbott there. And they're getting into the official presidential vehicles to be taken to an area where Senators Cruz and Cornyn have already been surveying this land. Remember, we had Senator Cruz on our air yesterday on Outnumbered. He was at the convention center in Houston. He will now join the president there in Corpus Christi. This is a ways away. They can't quite easily get into Houston. You want to talk about being a distraction. That's what that would be. So he's going to stay away. But already an undisclosed location, but a planned visit already for this weekend back, potentially as early as Saturday. It says so much about a level of commitment, but it also it speaks to the severity of the situation. So I was going to mention that there was a Black Hawk helicopter that was being used this morning to make rescues. I mean, you see a salute like that, and for me, as a former military brat, I just know the gravity is all hands on deck, everybody now.
I mean, I'm from a military family as well, Harris.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my brothers who are both in the Navy, who may end up having to go help there. I mean, this is when all hands are on deck, as you said, and as Peter was mentioning, the storm's not even over yet. I mean, they're still expected to get rain in parts of Houston, other parts of Texas this week, and the president is already there on the ground. And I want to mention, this is not a role he has played before, because you look at his past.
Or any of the people there, Dr. Ben Carson, none of them.
Because most of our presidents, all of them, have come from local politics in some way. So they've experienced a disaster on their home turf. And you can just imagine just how he's feeling in this moment, the emotions you feel, the responsibility that you feel as now the commander-in-chief of the United States. You're landing there in Texas with people whose lives are on the line, who are wanting to survive in this. It's not about politics, right? All of that should be removed at this moment. This is about being there now and showing that you are there for everyone on the ground.
The unfortunate thing, though, is it's not being removed. And, and I go back to, I'm glad that the other politicians have been through this, but I really think that America's ready for a businessman to take a look at it. Remember in Katrina, there was so much waste and fraud that came out of that whole situation. And that's why a lot of these people that have been displaced remain displaced, because a lot of the money just went down a rat hole.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to jump in here because this is a traffic camera shot that we're getting right now in Houston of submerged cars.
And people on top of them waiting, I would assume, Sandra, to be rescued. I mean,
we don't know if that's somebody trying to rescue or if that's somebody getting out of the car. We don't know yet, but these are live pictures just coming in.
And it boggles the mind. Trish, you're closest to the camera here.
Yes,
what is he standing on? Like, you're right on top of it.
An umbrella. There's somebody with an umbrella.
Good Lord. It's not clear what he's standing on.
The hood of a car.
It seems as though it's the trunk area, but, I don't know. Hopefully someone gets to him soon. You think about all of these people there. There's a good portion of the population, and we should point out, Abby, you and I were talking earlier about the Katrina anniversary, and there are people.
Today.
There are people that left Katrina to go to Houston. Many of them never left Houston. That's where they made
And that's a very good point.
And you think about what they're now dealing with.
And we should remind everybody that we learned at the top of the hour as Shepard Smith came in and brought that breaking news to us that rainfall levels topped 49.2 inches in the Houston area, a record.
Remember when we were on the air last week, and I think it was Rick Reichmuth, it might have been Janice Dean, and she dropped those numbers on us, and that was like 50 inches of rain. Oh my goodness. Sandra, we're there.
We're there, and it's not over. It's still raining. It's still coming down. That storm is not moving.
So when you talk about the 9,000 plus evacuees in a facility that was designed for 5,000, that is reminiscent of the dome in Katrina. And I know they're doing their best, but that is beyond capacity. I can't even imagine what it's like. So yesterday we know that they were trying to locate other rival size locations to put people. Kevin, what else would rival the size of the convention center in Houston?
I can't think of any place you could go in Houston. Just
And you know it well.
Go into topography. Yeah, right. Being from Texas, I had an office there for years. Have been stuck many times in torrential rainstorms that come in Houston, and I was describing it. It's unbelievable. The last time I actually flew in to go to a Sugar Ray Leonard event, I got flooded and had to stay over at the airport. And even in that one day, the sense of desperation of I can't get to my TV, my food, my family, etc., was amazing. And you just get a taste of it. I've been stuck in other floods in Texas as well. So I can't think of any place in Houston that you
Take several thousand.
to take several.
Well, they
thousand.
were taking busloads in, and now they're, I guess,
No, they're not
just taking
gonna do that.
walk-ins because you get so many people in there. What's so heartbreaking about that, Harris, is these convention centers, these places for safety, is the only place people can go to get food and water.
We were going to bring in Janice Dean, speaking of which, making those earlier forecasts for 50 inches of rain. And Janice Dean, as we bring you in, that level could soon be breached. 49.2 inches has fallen. Janice?
49.32 at
Wow.
Mary's Creek. Yeah,
still
and that
falling.
surpasses, it is now the wettest Texas tropical system of all time. And if we get past 53 inches, that will surpass 1950s, a hurricane out in Hawaii, and I think we're going to do it. I've seen unofficial totals of over 52 inches of rain, and so, you know, historic rainfall, devastating, catastrophic, you name it. And I have to say that the National Weather Service has been spot on with these rainfall totals. We were talking about this, you know, Wednesday of last week, that this could be a potentially catastrophic event with over 4 feet of rainfall. And I know a lot of people were like, no, that can't happen. That's not going to happen. And you know, the worst scenario, unfortunately, is unfolding. And these are the pictures that we're seeing. And Katrina made landfall, I believe, on this day 12 years ago.
Yeah, today's the anniversary.
And so, we covered that. I covered that storm, and I feel the same feeling in the pit of my stomach.
A sense of doom.
A sense of doom.
Yeah.
And that these pictures are just the beginning of, you know, rescue and recovery. It's just, there are no words right now.
You know, Janice, we're looking at these live pictures along with you, along with our audience, and so many people are writing in, watching that traffic camera shot on the left-hand side of your screen, where cars are submerged and someone's clearly on top of this, and so many people are writing in that that's the bed of a pickup truck.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. That's why I was asking what he was standing on. That gives you an idea not only of how deep the water is, but it really does speak to the issue of how difficult it is to pluck these people out of a situation. He is camped out there. He's waiting for help.
only way
it's
he
not
can
like
get
he
help.
just climbed onto his roof. He's out there. He's in wait mode. Janice, I want to ask you about something you and I were talking about on the air last week. And it was unfathomable to me at the time, but you said that we will reach a point where the earth just can't accept any more water.
I mean, I think that that's what's happening now. And Houston is in a predicament because there have been articles written about the city of Houston and how it is the perfect place for a perfect storm. You know, you've got clay instead of, you know, porous ground that will take the rainfall. So
that's slick and it won't permeate that.
Absolutely. So the rain already, you know, runs off of clay.
Because it's slick.
Then you've got urban development, urban sprawl.
Janice, I'm going to jump in because we've been watching this
there
live
he is.
camera shot, a traffic camera shot.
wow.
There's a current rescue.
There's a rescue.
Water rescue happening right now. Remember, we were just reminded by the fire chief and the mayor that over 3,500 such rescues have taken place. Look at this.
Well, look at all the stuff that's flowing out because he's been there for a while.
An inflatable boat is now pulling away from that pickup truck where we saw that man. We saw an umbrella, and he's being carried off.
You know, and I want you to notice too, because we'd have to roll back the tape. It's been subtle. But look how much, Trish, I know you're sitting closer to the TV. You see that water's rising, right?
You know, he didn't have a lot of time.
He didn't have a lot of time.
Thank goodness.
And he'd been there for a
he's
minute.
been rescued.
Yeah. I wondered what he was perched on because We're watching it now.
That back of the pickup truck. Janice,
We're watching the water rise.
Janice, where's the storm going from here? Because we've been hearing reports that this is not the end of it, right? That it may circle back around and they're going to get even more rain. What are you hearing?
We're on the tail end of the Houston story. Now we're getting rainfall reports, heavy rain in Louisiana towards New Orleans. But I also want to make mention that this is what we're seeing right now. You might not get rescued if you go out in your vehicle into floodwaters. There's just not the manpower. I mean, this was a success story. It's a
The
happy.
back of the truck is underwater now, Janice.
I mean, this is why the National Weather Service comes up with the expression "turn around, don't drown." And we always stress it because in these tropical systems, these landfalling systems, water takes more lives than anything else. More than the winds, more than tornadoes. It is the freshwater flooding, it is the storm surge, and this has been setting up for days now. And as a meteorologist, of course, we had the hurricane, the Cat 4, but it was up to us to say, but wait, after the hurricane makes landfall, the biggest story will be the epic, catastrophic flooding. So that's what we faced as meteorologists. It was like, don't turn off your TV set once the storm makes landfall, because we're going to be dealing with this for a week. And we were predicting dire rainfall totals.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I wish I got this forecast wrong.
Not to turn this into an episode of National Geographic, but there are a lot of things in those waters. And one of the reasons why they don't want people going out in their cars and ending up like this is because some of those things are moving around.
Right.
And as you can see, the perch that he had is now underwater. He didn't have a lot of time. And Janice, I know you and I have talked about this. It's southern Texas. There are a whole lot of things. We've seen flotillas of fire ants. There are things that people are dealing with. If you can stay and be rescued inside of a dwelling, much better than to go out in a car. And we are seeing it play out as to why.
You know, there are no words. I mean, just seeing these people and, you know, to the rescue crews who are basically abandoning their own families to go out there. I mean, these firemen and these rescue crews, in some cases, have left their homes that are flooded to go rescue people, risking their own lives to save others. And, you know, I lived in Houston for a number of years, and Texans, I mean, they have big old hearts, and they'll do what they can. I just feel like this is a story that is going to be one of the biggest catastrophes in our history, and we can just, I know sending our prayers doesn't help as much as maybe rescuing a person, but at this point in time, it's all we can do it.
We'll send both.
Yeah.
So as of now, 49.32 inches of rain. The president has landed Air Force One, Corpus Christi, Texas. The president, Melania Trump, deboarded the plane. They're on their way for a briefing with local authorities on the situation currently happening down there. The president was very careful to say he does not want to get in the way of any recovery efforts happening there. But Abby, you heard from the mayor at the top of the hour telling Houstonians, stay off the street. That is still the primary message as these rescue efforts are underway.
We're watching this live in the moment of that rescue. I mean, I think at the top of this hour, that truck will be completely underwater. And Harris made a great point of the water is not a safe place to be because you don't know what's crawling around in those waters. I mean, alligators, you name it. The president's now in Corpus Christi, where if you remember Saturday morning, right after the storm made landfall, that was where the heart of the storm hit. So they may not be experiencing the flooding that Houston is, but they're going back to their homes and their belongings. And it is a tragic situation. When he gets there on the ground, he's there, and he sees for himself. I mean, that will be a very long time.
That's such a great point. So I talked with the executive director of the Port Authority there because that's who is the en masse response to the oil refineries and trying to those ships, those cruise lines that couldn't put into port in Galveston and they were looking for other places. The port authorities along the coast were all dealing with that puzzle. You know, do we send them to Florida, so on and so forth. Anyway, this director told me, Sean Strawbridge, I believe was his name, he said, look, we had our own damage. They sent us pictures. They had a lot of damage. They just were on the northwest side of the storm and didn't get the rain bands. But they're already in cleanup mode. They're already leaving their families to go and do all of those things. You bring up such a good point. The president's able to land there for the lack of, boy, that truck is almost underwater, Sandra.
Yeah, it will
Look
be.
at that.
Well, I want to make one quick point. So don't go on the street. Yeah, but where are you going to go? Your home's probably flooded. So I think
Take something sharp up. Don't get stuck in the
well, I
attic
think
and
what you're
wait.
seeing here, I hope, is that people just reached the point of desperation and said, we have nowhere to go. But it goes back to, why didn't people leave to begin with? Houstonians know the scale of the land. They know that it's slate. They know that they have no runoff. They know that they're at sea level. And yet we're still
They've
watching.
never seen this.
Well, let me tell you, as I said, it doesn't take a lot of rain in Houston, Texas for you to flood.
1 inch. There were reports of 1 inch of
Wind
rain could
shept.
flood Houston. I think, Janice, you were saying this as well. But Janice, it's really hard to predict exactly where a hurricane will fall. I mean, they thought the Corpus Christi would be the eye of that storm. It moved a little bit from there. But that's why I think residents, it's hard to really know or have a good sense a few days before it's coming of where exactly it's going to land.
When did they know that Houston, I mean, I know we were on the air Saturday night when they had their first death in Houston. A woman caught in a car, the mayor came on, he did his news conference. And it was like staccato after that it got worse, Janice. When did they know?
Well, we were tracking this storm. This was a storm that came off the coast of Africa, so it was a classic Cape Verde storm. But the models had it moving over the Yucatan, which it did. And I'm sorry, ladies, they just switched my IFB over to Chef's show.
All right. That's
Well,
all right.
well,
Okay.
look,
Janice, okay.
I'd like to say one thing
Thank
about
you,
that.
Janice.
Is that, knowing, I think it's more of a sense of the desperation of people that are saying, maybe they just got their careers back and they're going, look, we can't leave. You guys
People,
talked about,
yeah.
you talked about, $500 being the difference between, paying bills and not paying bills for some of these folks that are now displaced. And I can only imagine, getting that forecast and making that debate with your family of do we stay or do we go. And
Well, originally the Houston mayor didn't necessarily advocate that they leave.
Well,
There was a sense that it might be, yes, shame on him, it might be okay, but the one thing I would point out is that you're not looking at a death toll such as we saw in Katrina. I mean, you think about the lower Ninth Ward there and all the people that stayed that should have left, that wound up losing their lives. Thus far, we're not looking at anything as catastrophic as that, which I think is very good. I mean, it shows that even though some are stranded, for the most part, we're seeing people that have been rescued. We're seeing people that are getting to
Oh, it could have
shelters
been a lot worse.
in a way that, yes, was not as bad as what we saw in Katrina.
Yeah, but
so that's good news.
and New Orleans is in a bowl, and of course they were relying on their levee system and as well as the pumps that didn't work. But Houston has the same problem, except it's at sea level, and they're relying on a drainage system that doesn't exist. And when you say a hurricane is barreling towards you, you've got to make it. It's a go no go decision. And I think many people just decide, you know what? The same thing happened with Katrina. We'll bear it out. And
Yeah, and they did actually. And so I think Janice Dean is back with us. Janice, it is like that. You warned everybody the back side of the storm would be the worst part, but when it comes over your house and it's not raining and everything looks like it's going to be okay, even when the officials are telling people to leave, it's hard. In Houston, they had the layering effect of they'd never had that reservoir overflow. They didn't think they needed to tell 5 million people to get out of the way. And Janice?
Well, just know this. When we track these storms, we usually have 5 to 7 days to prepare. We did for Katrina. And we knew it was going to be a hurricane, and we knew it was going to make landfall in and around the Louisiana coastline, Mississippi. With this storm, it went across the Yucatan, it fell apart, then went into the Bay of Campeche, and exploded. And that's when we knew it was originally supposed to go into Mexico. And it was Wednesday of last week when we were like, okay, this is going to make a right-hand turn and it's going to go up towards the coast of Texas. We didn't know it was going to be a Cat 4. The intensity is really hard to forecast, but we knew it was